The Cincinnati Bengals just gave fans plenty to feel good about after beating the Chicago Bears 27-9 and moving to 2-0 in the preseason. The score was impressive, but what really matters is what happened inside the game, because several players helped themselves in a big way, while a few others created new concerns heading into the final preseason matchup. Before we get into it, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want more Bengals updates, roster battles, and preseason reactions without missing anything important. Now, let's get to what matters. One of the biggest winners from this game was Josh Johnson. After a rough performance against Detroit, when he started 0 for 7, the veteran quarterback needed a response. Against Chicago, he gave Cincinnati exactly that. Johnson was much more comfortable, much more productive, and, most importantly, he allowed the offense around him to function. That matters because, when the backup quarterback struggles, it becomes harder to evaluate the receivers and other offensive players. Against Chicago, Johnson gave guys like Kobe Young, Dante Meyers, and Tanner Hudson legitimate chances to make plays. He also showed he can still make something happen with his legs, picking up a first down on a play where Cincinnati appeared to use some kind of option look. It wasn't a perfect performance, but it was a strong response after the previous game. And because Johnson played better, other players benefited. The biggest example was Kobe Young. At this point, it is becoming almost impossible to talk about Cincinnati's preseason without bringing up Young. He scored his first touchdown for the Bengals against Chicago, showing his speed, stride, and hands on the play. He also made impressive catches near the sideline, including a toe-dragging grab that counted and another similar play that did not. Young continues to make himself noticeable every time he gets an opportunity. That doesn't automatically mean he has earned a starting position. Andrei Iosivas did not play, and his spot ahead of Young appears clear right now. Zach Taylor also made it clear after the game that Young still has work to do and that Cincinnati has talented players in front of him. That is important. Nobody should take a good preseason and suddenly pretend every decision has already been made. But Young is doing exactly what you want from a player fighting for a bigger role. He is making the decision more difficult. Every time Cincinnati gives him another opportunity, he seems to give the coaches another reason to keep watching him. And he wasn't the only young player who continued building momentum. Landon Robinson had another strong preseason performance. Through 2 games, Robinson has 5 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 2 sacks, and a quarterback hit. He also recorded a pass breakup during the first preseason game. What stands out most is the consistency. Robinson is not just appearing for one play and disappearing. He has made an impact in consecutive games. That is especially interesting because Robinson is a 7th-round pick, competing in a defensive tackle room that includes players drafted much earlier. The Bengals already have established names at the top of that group, but Robinson is doing everything possible with the opportunities he has been given. That doesn't mean he is guaranteed a major regular season role. It simply means he is doing his job during the preseason. Get on the field. Make plays. Force the coaching staff to notice. Robinson is doing that. Another player continuing to strengthen his case is Dante Meyers. Meyers has become one of the most interesting players to watch during Cincinnati's preseason. His background already makes his situation interesting. He came from the CFL, and there is also the story of him driving overnight from Georgia just for the opportunity to throw with Joe Burrow. But at this point, the football matters more than the story. Meyers continues to play well. He can contribute on special teams. He has shown ability as a receiver, and he keeps making a case for himself when Cincinnati gives him opportunities. When you look at the wide receiver group, there are several names involved, including Mitchell Tinsley and Charlie Jones, but Meyers has put himself firmly into the roster conversation. There is really only one thing missing from his preseason: a touchdown. Cincinnati got into scoring position against Chicago, but Tanner Hudson ended up getting the touchdown instead. There is one preseason game remaining, so maybe Meyers gets his moment there. While the Bengals had several winners, not everybody helped themselves. The swing tackle competition between Jalen Rivers and Cody Ford remains a concern. Cincinnati has been moving both players around and giving them opportunities at multiple offensive line positions. Against Chicago, both players had problems. Penalties were part of it. Ford had a holding penalty on 2nd and 1 that pushed Cincinnati backward, and then he was beaten up the middle by Gervon Dexter. On the next play, Rivers struggled to get enough of his defender, and Johnson took a hard hit. That is not what Cincinnati wants from players who may be asked to provide depth during the regular season. Penalties are one problem. Allowing your quarterback to take unnecessary hits is another. When both things happen in the same stretch, the concern becomes more serious. Zach Taylor indicated afterward that Cincinnati is still evaluating players and that not every decision has been made. That makes the final preseason game very important for Ford and Rivers. Another player who missed an opportunity against Chicago was Josh Newton. With DJ Turner sitting and Dax Hill out again, Newton had a good chance to show what he could do at cornerback. Instead, some of the same concerns showed up again. Newton has reportedly looked good during practices, but translating that performance into live games has been more difficult. Against Chicago, he allowed Jahdae Walker to get behind him for a 36-yard reception and nearly lost his balance on the play. He also had a poor missed tackle attempt. That doesn't mean Cincinnati is suddenly going to cut him. The Bengals do not have unlimited depth at cornerback, and one bad preseason game does not decide everything. But Newton had an opportunity to make coaches and fans feel better about him, and he did not take advantage of it. That becomes even more noticeable when another cornerback, Jasir Taylor, has been getting opportunities and looking good. So after a 27-9 victory, the Bengals are left with far more positives than negatives. Josh Johnson responded after a bad first preseason performance. Kobe Young continued to make plays and force his name into the conversation. Landon Robinson continued producing for the second straight game. Dante Meyers strengthened his case for a roster spot. Meanwhile, Jalen Rivers and Cody Ford still have questions to answer along the offensive line, and Josh Newton needs to show that he can bring his practice performance into an actual game. That is what makes preseason football important. The final score is nice, and Cincinnati being 2-0 is certainly better than the alternative, but the real value comes from learning something about the players fighting for roles. And right now, Cincinnati is learning quite a bit. Young continues to make the receiver conversation more interesting. Robinson continues to make the defensive tackle competition interesting. Meyers continues to make his roster case stronger. And Johnson showed how quickly a player can change the conversation by responding with a better performance. Now there is only one preseason game left. For the players who have been playing well, it is another opportunity to confirm what they have already shown. For the players who struggled against Chicago, it may be their final chance to change the way this preseason is remembered. So Bengals fans, I want to hear from you. Who was your biggest winner against the Bears? Was it Josh Johnson after his bounce-back performance? Kobe Young after another impressive night and his first Bengals touchdown? Landon Robinson after continuing to make plays? Or Dante Meyers as he keeps pushing for a roster spot? And what do you think about Kobe Young specifically? Has he shown enough to deserve a bigger role? Or do you think Cincinnati should remain patient with him? Also, how concerned are you about Cody Ford, Jalen Rivers, and Josh Newton after what happened against Chicago? Drop your opinion in the comments. Who day?